Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
How's everyone doing?
Great.
How'd you sleep? With your eyes closed? Alright, so we're doing something a little different. We've had authors come in here and talk before. Thank you. Basically what we're going to try to do now is, instead of just talking about the book, we're going to be interviewing them about the book, about their experiences, and today we have somebody who you might have seen before. He's performed here a few times. I'm going to play you guys a video of him on News 12 and his promo video before we do the interview. He's going to talk about his book. It's called Ignite the Rock Star Within. His name is fiZ, and this is our video before we start.
He's as passionate about his music as he is about giving back to others.
That's right, Tiny DiMattia, a Levittown musician better known as fiZ, is a rock and roll star.
You couldn't say that you sat in Bob Proctor's living room with fiZ.
Awesome. Everybody, give it up for fiZ. fiZ is our end of the hour. Thank you for coming. My mic is broken, so I'll probably...
Yeah. Better. My mic's better than yours.
There you go. All right. So, has everyone has seen fiZ here? A few of you guys have seen fiZ here before? Yeah. Some new faces. Okay, cool. So, fiZ, why don't you tell everybody what you do, and then we'll get a little more into your book.
Sure, okay. Hello, everybody. So, my name is fiZ. Of course, my parents didn't name me fiZ. My parents named me Anthony. So, Anthony Luca DiMattia. Well, that's how my father would say my last name, DiMattia. My mother would say DiMattia. And hold on, I want to just get rid of this echo because I'm not singing, I'm talking, and it's better if there's no echo. Okay. And, but I go by fiZ, like Bono, Sting, Cher, and I've always associated music with healing because it was always healing for me. And fortunately, I grew up on rock and roll. My stepfather was in a doo-wop band called the Charades. I'm sure some of you heard of them. And they were an interracial band. There's actually a picture of them in this book, which, by the way, anybody that buys the book today gets my CD for free. So normally it's $40, but today for this, it's $20 for both. But there's a picture in this book. And you can't see it from where you're sitting, but when you look at the book, you'll see there's a picture of my stepfather's doo-wop band. And in the picture, they're actually segregated. This was in Elmine High School in the 50s. And so most of you have been around long enough to know about segregation. And so the school actually separated them, black and white. But years later, when I used to watch them rehearse, they were always together. And so I saw how music played a very important role with helping to unite people. And that's a brief introduction.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, you were talking about how you go by fiZ, like Cher and Sting.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah. So I'm what some people would call a woo-woo person. Anybody hear the term woo-woo person? So those are like psychic mediums would be considered this, like people that speak to people from beyond, and angels talk to them, and I'm one of those people. And so fiZ was a download that I received from my guides to use the name fiZ. And so everything I do is based in the spiritual realm, whether it might appear that way or not. And that's the foundation to everything I do. And I've done a lot of things that are connected to that, which perhaps we'll go into.
Very cool. Awesome. Okay. So, Ignite the Rock Star Within, How to Achieve Anything with Music Visioning. So, what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah. That's not such an inspirational story, actually. What inspired me is I recorded this CD. I literally saved up my life all my life savings to record an incredible CD. I hired the best people in the music industry, a Grammy award-winning producer, literally the best musicians in the world. Paul McCartney's drummers playing on the CD. And I was like, my plan was, okay, I'm gonna, because I couldn't get a record deal, I said, I'm gonna put out my own CD. It's gonna blow them away. I'm gonna get my manager, I'm gonna get everyone. And I put out this CD, put my life savings into it, got no manager, got no response. And at that time, I was looking at California and looking at a lot of these motivational speakers like Tony Robbins. You heard of Tony Robbins? And I was thinking to myself, they're kind of like the new rock stars in a way. And so I moved to California and I started studying all these entrepreneurs, these motivational speakers. And one of them was teaching entrepreneurs how to promote their business more. And he said, you need to write a book. And he goes, you also need a signature speech. And I thought, wow, they should have a signature song. So when they go on stage, they have their own song. So that's how I got the idea to write my own book, was that.
Very cool. Yeah. If you were going to describe your book in one sentence, how would you describe your book?
One sentence. A way to tap into your imagination.
It's interesting because you're a full-time musician. I was a full-time musician, and what's interesting is we choose these paths, and most people, they know what they're going to do. They know that they're going to go to school, they know that they're going to get their degree, and they know that they're going to get their job. What's interesting for guys like us is there is no class, there is no degree. It really is just what you put into it, it will put back into you. Did that scare you at all, going into this field?
No. No, because, you know, the thing is, like, when it's who you are and what you do, I've always known from a very early age, something I mentioned in the book, I remember the first time I heard Chuck Berry. I was in the back of my mother's car, and I was about 4 years old, and Chuck Berry came on the radio, and I knew immediately. I was like, there's something with rock and roll and me, and there's some connection I'm supposed to do with rock and roll. And that was the first hit. The next hit I got, I was 10 years old, and I got a download. You can say God, you can say the angels, whatever your experience is. I don't like to push any spiritual or religious beliefs, but I had received an insight when I was 10 that there would be a movie somewhat based around my personal journey. And 40 years later, it came through as a rock opera. And so I've been on this timeline literally my whole life. I want to say before this lifetime, but I'm not sure if we'll have time to go into that. This is where I get real woo-woo.
That's awesome. So, okay, when you decided to sit down and write the book, what was the hardest part about writing a book? I know when it comes to writing music, you know, there's writer's block, which I'm sure you might have even experienced writing the book. I have found, for me, I write the best in the places I'm most comfortable. Did you do that as well? Was that challenging for you to find the place that was comfortable to write something so personal?
You know, there were some like sticky spots with the book. Obviously, the things that talking about my childhood and mentioning the musical part was easy for me, because that's my sweet spot. You know, that's when I'm in my zone. And again, because it wasn't divinely inspired at first to write this book, it was like it came from, honestly, and being honest, like, oh, this is a way I can introduce myself to people, and then they can hear about my music. Not so much about the book, but more about the musical part of me. And so there's that element. However, I talk about music visioning in this book. And that was really an inspiring thing to talk about, because when I was a little boy, and this is how my rock opera starts. It's a 10-year-old boy putting on a Beatles album, and he closes his eyes and he sees the world becoming healed through music. So every time he listens to music, he visualizes the world becoming healed. And this was a ritual I would do. And I would do this daily. And I would come out of these visions crying. And then years later, you saw a little bit of a snippet, I'm sure most of you saw that of me on Channel 12, found out about my work with physically challenged children. And they did a whole segment on me on people making a difference. And I had those visions when I was a little boy of performing for the children and helping the world. And then years later, a movie came out called The Secret. You ever hear of The Secret? No. Anybody hear of the movie The Secret? That would be a really good movie for everybody to watch here. Maybe you can pull it up for them. But it's based on the law of attraction. So what you think about, you bring about. It's very good. And there's a man called Bob Proctor. He was in that video with me. I was with Bob Proctor. He was a famous speaker, leader in the New Thought movement. And so, yeah, that's about what you think about, you bring about, positive thinking and that sort of thing.
Now, you talked about this movie, and there are plenty of books that do tell you like a step-by-step guide on how to, success, how to achieve your dreams. What makes your book different?
Yeah, because I'm a musician. Because I physicize it with, because and they talk about in this movie, The Secret, what visualization, using vision boards, using things to bring about what you want. Well, my technique, music visioning, is like a vision board on steroids, because you put the music. And the important thing is not to just visualize, but you have to be emotionally connected to what you're seeing, what you visualizing, what you want in your life. There has to be an emotional connection to it. Can't just be, just see something and it's like,
you can't fake it. Yeah. Very cool. When you were writing this, were you more of a planner, or were these things coming to you kind of spontaneously? Were you sitting down, dedicating time to, every Friday I'm going to sit from 6 to 9 and I'm going to write this? Or was it, I have to stop what I'm doing and it just came to me, I have to write this down?
Yeah, it was more like, I need to get this done, and so I was pretty focused on it. And it was pretty much the dominant thing in my universe when I was working on this book. So I wasn't playing in a band at the time, I wasn't really performing a lot. It was my main focus.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it says in the book that your music was on Billboard.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm sure you've all heard this before, how difficult the music industry is. Anybody that's maybe shared they're a musician, and a lot of people respond, "Oh, that's hard." Yeah. Well, it's harder not to do it when it's who you are. Okay? Anything that's really worth anything usually is, there's a challenge to it. But I've been fortunate enough to play with some of the best musicians in the music industry. I've written for artists on Delight Records, which was Kool and the Gang. You guys remember Kool and the Gang? Celebrate good time. Remember them? So I was writing for an artist that was on their record label. Their record label was called Delight Records. And I was writing songs for a man named Anthony Cole, and his music got on the Billboard dance charts. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be my way into the industry, as had been for a lot of previous songwriters, because I consider myself a songwriter more than a musician. And so you have people like Carole King. Before Carole King was a famous singer-songwriter, she was actually writing songs, which I always love to share with people. I like to educate them on, she wrote like Up on the Roof. Any of you know that? Remember the song Up on the Roof? Yeah, so she wrote that with her husband, Jerry Goffin. And so a lot of those songwriters wrote for other artists before they even became famous themselves. And so I was thinking that was going to be my way in. And unfortunately, that door had closed. And I want to say unfortunate, but not unfortunate, because everything is divine, depending on what level you're operating at, right? We're all sovereign souls. That's another thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in the same boat where I would find that sometimes I thought a door was opening, but maybe it wasn't that door that was opening. One door would slam shut, and then another door would be opening. I've recently been looking into, I have a friend who writes for Sony, and same thing where he was writing a record for somebody, and he thought this was his big break, but now he does syncing. So he's writing more like jingles now,
Wow.
and this is his career.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how it goes. You know, you do one thing and a different thing happens. How do you know? And this, I guess, goes for both when you're writing a song and you're writing a book. How do you know when your art is finished, when the book is done, the song is done, the album is done? How can you tell?
Well, that's a good question. I don't even really kind of think of it that way. I mean, the book, it was pretty much, because I'm not a writer, as in like somebody that normally writes books. I'm a songwriter. So for me, it was done because I was done. I was just like, I kind of said what I needed to say, and so in regards to music and albums, I've written hundreds of songs, and really, I could stop writing and put out many, many albums. Like, I have that many songs. So for me, and another interesting thing is I've never really experienced writer's block, what people call writer's block. Whenever I did, give you an example, I would give myself like a writing exercise. So I would pick a word and kind of write around a word I liked. So I give myself little writing exercises if there was some stagnation. But I've always been quite prolific as a writer. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wish I didn't have writer's block.
Yeah.
Right. Is there a part of this book that means, I don't want to say that means more to you than other parts of this book, but if somebody was going to open this book, what is the chapter or the section that you would be like, if you're going to take away anything, this is what you need to read?
Well, it would be the very first chapter, an introduction to who I am, and then, of course, mentioning the music visioning. And that's the foundation to fiZ, and what I do is, the healing power of music. I joke around. I grew up in a very religious home. My mother's Catholic, and so before we would eat dinner, she would lead us into prayer, and they would make the sign of the cross, and I would say, in the name of the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and the Rolling Stones, Amen. Rock and roll is my religion, and you're all rock stars. Now, that might rub some of you the wrong way, but I'm here to tell you that's one of the things I'm here to do, is to rub you the wrong way. And so, as an artist, as a creator, we are creators like the Creator, and that's when we're really honoring God, Spirit, Source, Universe, whatever you want to call it, however you want to associate it. That is when we're creating. Certainly not when we're harming one another, but when we're creating things. And so, rock and roll, I've always associated rock and roll with healing. It was healing for me, and then I saw how it was unifying people. As I mentioned, I showed the picture of my stepfather's band. They were segregated, and all of these incredible, American music for the most part is black music. They gave us jazz, they gave us blues, they gave us even country, which a lot of people don't know, soul, R&B, rap, on and on and on. And so, they played a very important role in our music. And I think the greatest gift we've given to the world is American music. And then, of course, you have everyone kind of chiming in on that. A lot of the early rock, the doo-wop, the romantic rock, the drifters, the coasters. Again, a lot of... back in that time, you had a lot of songwriters writing for the artists. And a lot of Jewish songwriters, actually. I mentioned Carole King. You have Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. They were writing hits for Elvis. Okay, and a lot of those. So it wasn't actually Sam Cooke. You guys familiar with Sam Cooke? Who I think is one of the greatest of all time. And he was, he came out at a time when artists normally weren't writing their own music. Sam Cooke wrote all those songs, Twisting the Night Away, Having a Party, brilliant, brilliant singer-songwriter, King of Soul. And so it really wasn't until the Beatles came around that artists started writing their own music. That was one of the things the Beatles did. That's why the Beatles really helped change the world, and spiritually. How many of you remember the song My Sweet Lord by George Harrison? My sweet Lord. So he was actually singing about Lord Krishna. I don't know if you know that. He was born Christian, but he died Hindu. He converted to Hinduism. And so he was singing about Lord Krishna. And I share this because this is really important. People have to understand the depths of what the Beatles changed the world spiritually, musically, on many, many levels. Before the Beatles, there weren't yoga studios. People weren't doing yoga. They weren't really doing meditation on a global level. The Beatles actually brought that in. In particular, George Harrison. He was the first one to play the sitar, so he was bringing Eastern instruments into rock and roll.
It's interesting, especially with the Beatles, because for me, I remember, I'm a very big Elvis fan, and I remember there was a time where I was like, Beatles are good, and I get why they're so popular, but I don't know, for me, they just don't do it. And then I would say maybe 6 months ago, I sat down and I was like, I'm gonna listen to their entire discography, which takes you quite a bit of time. They were phenomenal, and what's so cool about the Beatles is you could listen to a lot of artists and you could kind of expect where they were going to go. Yeah. And with the Beatles, you really could not. You had no clue where they were going, what was coming next. Whether publishing or putting out an album, was there any part of that surprised you? Or something that was maybe a little more, that was a little difficult that you didn't think would be so difficult about it?
About putting out my own album?
Your own album, or when you published your book?
Actually, I was studying all these marketers and these people that were teaching people how to write a book and how to publish it. And so it actually wasn't that difficult. I learned from, studying. I was studying these entrepreneurs and these marketers. Now, I'm not an entrepreneur. Maybe you could say I'm a musicpreneur, okay? And I came up with this idea, signature songs, writing songs for speakers and entrepreneurs, and I studied these people so much, I got to a point where I was getting up to $10,000 a song. So yeah, writing custom songs for these speakers and these entrepreneurs, getting $10,000 a song. So the way I positioned it was, just to give you an example, like a couple of $1,000, you get the whatever, it was the silver package, which just acoustic guitar and me singing. Then the gold package was me with the band, and then the platinum package was $10,000, and that was me writing your song with you, with a Grammy Award-winning producer. And so I really became known in the music industry. I was the only guy getting paid that kind of money. And then these people, this very influential couple, created a place in Costa Rica called Cinegita. So for people that have big money, a lot of these, entrepreneurs, these people like Tony Robbins, these sort of people, and they knew about my work writing custom songs, and so I wound up living there and doing these custom rock song retreats for high-achieving entrepreneurs. And so I did that. I lived in Costa Rica for a couple of years too.
Cool. Yeah, some of these workshops that they do are really interesting. Yeah. I did one not too long ago, maybe like a year ago, and I was learning about music math, and they were saying how if like your song starts on, the 1 in the verses, maybe when the chorus comes, you should start it on the 4. And it was really interesting how they do it. I did notice it says something about notes for life in your book. Could you talk about that?
Yeah. Notes for Life is a big part of my big dream, and that's to heal the world, And everything I'm doing is Notes for Life, technically, because I'm a pacifist, I'm rock and roll Jesus. You know, and John Lennon was rock and roll Jesus. You know, again, if that rubs you the wrong way, it's okay. But I believe in peace. I don't believe in harming people. And so I'm coming from that place. And I also believe we could change the world, every single one of us. You know, I'm like the real man of La Mancha. You know, to dream the impossible dream, that's me. I'm that guy. I dream the impossible dream, which is totally possible. Anything is possible.
I have a few fun-hearted questions about your music and your book. If they were going to make a movie about you, who would play you in the movie?
Well, I'm so out of the loop now with actors, you know. Actually, it's interesting that you asked that, because I wrote a rock opera musical movie, and I just pitched it the other day to somebody that makes movies, so let's see what happens. But, so you put, sometimes in these pitch decks, you put actors, like to kind of give them a frame. And so, as the older version of me, Kevin Bacon, actually. Not that he looks like me. I have Johnny Depp as one of the people in, not to play me, but to play the Dark Messiah. This is a character in my rock opera, the Dark Messiah. And it weaves, my rock opera weaves in and out of, I don't want to say past lives, because it's technically not a correct thing to say past lives, because time is sort of a human construct, you know. I want to say like previous incarnations is a more accurate thing to say, which I have experience with. And I've trained with spiritual masters from India that can actually share their soul samadhi, so they can actually change form in front of you. I mean, I've seen stuff that most people wouldn't even believe. I mean, there's a lot of people in this room that probably think they're a meat body that's going to die, you know. You are a soul having a human experience, so that's the most important thing, is like, you know, being aware of who and what you really are.
When you said you wrote your rock opera years ago, that was when you got inspired to do it.
Yeah.
What is the goal for that? Is it going to be a movie? Is it going to be on Broadway? Is it going to be traveling?
Yeah. Yeah, all of that and more. So, I don't know if they can lower, is there a way for them to lower that music? That I don't know why it's...
Yeah, if you tell them at the front.
Yeah. It's kind of throwing me off a little bit. Just that's how sensitive I am to music. Love it though. It's Chuck Berry. Oh no, it's Little Richard. Oh yeah, man, I love it. Yeah, Little Richard. You can just sit here and listen to the song. So about that question, this is the beauty and the importance of everything. Like, so my spiritual views are very different than a lot of people. And so I say, what if this time Jesus needs you, right? So there are people that believe Jesus is going to come back, and for those of you that are Christians that believe that, and I'm coming from a very, very different place. And so, and through my soul experiences connected to that story, the kingdom of heaven being within you, and you having the power to do anything. And so, in regards to the rock opera, when I wrote it, I thought it was just a movie like Jesus Christ Superstar meets Tommy. Anybody see Tommy? Tommy? That was the very first rock opera by a band called The Who. Okay, Tina Turner was in that, by the way. She played the Acid Queen. And I saw that in the movie theater, and I was a kid. I wasn't even supposed to be in the... Technically, wasn't supposed to be in the theater, but I was supposed to be. And it had a profound impact. It was like, whoa. So my rock opera, you could say it's kind of like a cross between Tommy, Jesus Christ Superstar, and it's a movie, it's a rock Broadway play, a video game. And now, even though it's complete, it'll never be complete. And I'm gonna go down this road. To give you an example. When I moved to Costa Rica, and I thought I went there to do these custom song retreats and all of that for these people were telling me, oh, you need to meet Grandmother Rainbow. Well, I finally met her, and sorry, it's just throwing me off. Yeah, so when I was in Costa Rica, somebody was telling me, you need to meet this Grandmother Rainbow. Well, I met her. She was an 88-year-old Jewish woman living in the mountains of Costa Rica, and we met, and I knew she was an important soulmate of mine. We're all soulmates, it's just different levels of that. And she had come from a lot of money. Her husband was very wealthy, but she was also very verbally abused by him. She was always told to shut up, keep her mouth shut, you know, and you're the wife and just be quiet. And then she always wanted to share her voice and her message, and she actually wanted to be a cantor, you know, which wasn't allowed for women in the Jewish. So anyway, when we met, we had a session, because when I do a custom song session, we go deep, depending on who you are, and I took her message and who she was and her story, and she's the Rainbow Woman, and I wrote her into my rock opera. And so in my rock opera, I put her into my rock opera as Jesus' mentor that teaches him how to dance on water. And so it's just very symbolic of what's happening now, because there's a spiritual awakening taking place. And so in my rock opera, a lot of the women are spiritual leaders in my rock opera, because women have been suppressed, you know, like as you're all aware. Right? In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, where's the mother? They snubbed the mother out. So part of my purpose is to help, you know, everyone's the chosen one. That's the overall message of the rock opera. And so it's limitless in regards to what it's going to do.
Very cool. I would like you to play some of your songs that mean something to you. Before we do that, I do have just a few questions about music. What are you listening to right now? Like, I was talking to Justin, who's also a musician, and I had made a joke, not really a joke, I said the other day, I was like, you know what, I've been on a really big Billy Joel kick. And Justin was like, yeah, for the last 30 years, like you love Billy Joel. Exactly. And it's true, I listen to a lot of Billy Joel, but I think my music comes in and out, right? I saw an interview with a producer and songwriter named Jack Antonoff not too long ago. And somebody had asked him what his favorite album was, and he said, when I was a kid or now? And I had just said I had locked myself in for years, being like, this is my favorite album of all time, this is my favorite album of all time. But it really wasn't, it was my favorite album when I was a kid. So I've been trying to expand what I listen to, and it's funny, the music I listen to now and the music that I would like to pursue making now is so different than the music I spent years chasing. I almost feel like I've reached, I don't know the right word, I almost feel like I made a breakthrough, like I had my aha moment when it came to music. So what are you listening to right now? What's influencing you?
I'm terrible with this. Yeah. You know, and what's coming to mind is an interview with Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen didn't listen to any, like, new music at all. He just didn't. And I'm kind of like that too. I mean, I'll listen to new artists, and I'm always open to new things, but I love the old music so much. That's why most of my shows are at the Bristols and assisted living, and this generation is the coolest generation right here. This is the luckiest generation in this audience. You all came to planet Earth at the right time. You came at the right time for America, you came at the right time for music, you came at the right time for film, for all of it. You literally came in at the right time. And so for me, growing up on all of that, I mean, everything from Satchmo to Sinatra to, you know, Chuck Berry, who I met, by the way, and B.B. King, who I also met, and James Brown, who I also met. and I played with people on the Motown record label. Dion Estes was my bass player. He played for Marvin Gaye. And so I've literally played with the best people in the music industry. And that music, I can never get enough of it. I'll be honest with you. And so I'm always listening to that stuff. But I am open to new stuff, you know.
And You have, I think every artist has their signature song. Would you say you have a signature song? What would your signature song be?
It's definitely This Is It. Yeah, and we didn't play for you the segment on News 12 did on me, which was a pretty long segment. But the kids at Carmen Road School, which is school for physically challenged children, they made my song This Is It their graduation song. You know, so really, you want to talk about just being blessed and humbled, and you know, they gave me an award, and the award is really just in the action. You know, it's so interesting. People say, "Oh, you do this, and you'll be, you know, you'll get good deeds in the future." It's like, no, you get the good deed in doing the good deed. That is the blessing, and so This Is It for sure, which I'll play for everybody. You know, when you want. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, those are all of my questions. Thank you so much for doing this. I would love it if you could, I think we have about 15, 20 minutes left. I would love for you to play these songs that mean something to you.
Okay, cool.
Everybody give it up for
Michael, everybody. This is great. Only a fellow musician could ask such intelligent questions like that. Really, thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited.
We got to jam now, you know?
We should. I'll bring my...
This is it. Gonna take a chance. This is it. Maybe find romance. This is it. It's a brand new attitude. It's a brand new attitude. If you're low, you need a place to hide. Well, don't you know you can go inside, and anything you wanna do, just go and make your dreams come true. Just go and make your dreams come true. Take some action and move today. Well, don't you know that you gotta play in anything you wanna do? Just go and make your dreams come true. If you stumble, if you fall, you can always have it all. Everything is up to you. If you're sane, you can always play